So, welcome everyone to the first offering of Prodependence, Moving Beyond Codependency webinar with Kim Buck. She is co-authoring the Prodependence workbook with our own Dr. Rob Weiss. And so we're super excited. She's been utilizing these materials in her practice very successfully, and she's going to give us the benefit of what she's learning and sharing over the series of webinars. So we're glad you're here or listening to this on the recorded version. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Kim so that she can tell you a little bit more about herself and where she works, etc.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here today. I want to apologize first for my voice. I sound like a duck, but I'm just still recovering from an illness from last week, but I'm really happy to be here and hopefully impart or share some information that will be useful and helpful to you. My home's in Arizona. I work at Family Strategies Counseling Center in Mesa, Arizona. It's a pretty big agency. We have quite a few clinicians here, but we have a big program here, an outpatient program that treats sex addiction, people who struggle with sex addiction, and partners. They're two separate tracks, but it's a pretty relatively big program. We have about 130 participants at any one time, and we've been doing it for about 15 years. So I have groups of partners that we have started implementing some of the new Prodependent material into their recovery. And I had the benefit of getting to know Rob and this Prodependent information before the book was even published, because we were attending the same school and he was working on his dissertation project, and I had the advantage of hearing all that before. And the minute I heard it, I was like, yes, yes. My recovery is very old. I was been in recovery myself from the codependent perspective since the late 80s. And the codependent introduction of some of the codependent material didn't feel very good to me back then. But I was willing, just teach me. It was all that was what was available. And I wanted to get better. I wanted to learn how to live in a healthier way. And so fast forward, I became a therapist, and I was also taught a lot of that, but a lot of it didn't resonate for me, and certainly didn't resonate for my clients. So I thought it was pretty hurtful sometimes to come into treatment and see a therapist and hear, wow, you love this person way too much, and what are you doing to make it worse? And do you have trauma that makes you do this in your history? And I just thought, wait a second, wait, and my clients were like, wait a minute, I just got ran over by a Mack truck. Like, give me a Band-Aid, help me understand what's going on in my life. So Dr. Rob just put into words what a lot of us have been thinking for a long time. And when I heard it, I just immediately gravitated to it. I was so excited, and I sat down on my computer and I just started rewriting all the curriculum for our program for our partners here. And our oldest group who've been using Prodependence is about 20 weeks in, and they are moving at such a faster speed as far as feeling more grounded, feeling more hope, feeling just moving through their healing process in a much smoother and effective way. So I'm hoping that I can share some of that information with y'all in this webinar, and maybe answer some questions that you might have. Some of you may have some recovery of your own, and some of you may not. May have done some work already, a lot of work, and some of you, this may be all new. So all are welcome here, and I will do my best to meet the needs of all of you. So yes.
Can I just share one thing too? So they don't have to be just Prodependent questions. She's a gifted therapist. So if you're a partner, and you're struggling with something in particular, please feel free to, I invite you to ask whatever your question is on on that you're struggling with, or you have questions about. It does not have to be just on a Prodependent theme. So
thank you. And even if you're not a partner, maybe you're a family member, maybe you're you're struggling with addiction or other, it doesn't matter. I think this information can be beneficial to anyone. I just happen to work very heavily with partners. So I probably will default to that. You'll hear me do that, but please know that doesn't mean those are the only individuals who can benefit. So I've been doing this work for about 15 years. Obviously my recovery is old, but I've been doing it for a long time, and I supervise a lot of therapists who do it, and I love this work. So I won't be acting as a personal therapist today. I'll be giving a lot of hopefully good information and education. So the first thing I kind of wanted to, I'll just kind of introduce it in a way that I introduce it to the individuals that come in for treatment here at our facility at Family Strategies. The first time people come into treatment, or they find out that their life has just tipped over on its side or on its head, or has been spinning in circles for a long time, usually there's just a lot of confusion. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of agony. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of uncertainty about the future and what that's going to look like. And oftentimes some of the big confusion is, I still love this individual who's struggling. I love him or her, and I care about them, and I want to kill them at the same time. I want to choke them because they've hurt me so badly. They've kind of taken the commitments that they've made, and the family commitments, and sometimes work commitments, and all of those promises and vows and things that they've made, and they've pulled that rug out from under your feet. So sometimes emotionally I feel a little bit crazy, and I've maybe tried to confront that, only to be met with, "You're crazy. Stop asking me questions. What's the big deal? You're making me, you're making me nuts. Who wouldn't do the stuff I do? Look at what you're doing." Which is just all a way for an addict to keep the addiction going by shifting that blame to someone else. And oftentimes the partners are recipients of that. So you get confused, and sometimes it's hard to even learn to trust yourself. I don't even know how to trust myself anymore, my feelings and my thoughts, because I've been lied to, or I've been, minimized. My feelings have been minimized or whatever. So I want to say right out of the bat, our goal is to help you learn how to trust yourself. Not trust the addict per se, but learn how to trust your thoughts and feelings again, and your gut, the things that tell you something's not right. Something doesn't feel quite right. So coming into treatment, typically those are just some of the emotions that are going on. So the very first thing that we want to do is just help you understand the very basics of what's been going on. Maybe a little bit of the basics about, the experience of living in an addicted relationship, in a relationship in which I have somebody who I'm trying to hold on to and keep my promises, and they're pulling away. And I'm trying to hold on, and they're pulling away. And I'll use my hands a lot too. I'm sorry. It's just my thing. So trying to understand why, like what that looks like for you. And there's not any one way that looks. It's very different for each couple, for each individual, for each family. Those dynamics look very different. You could have someone who has an addiction who's very humble and sad, and they feel terrible about what they're doing, but they don't know how to stop. And then you could have an addict who is in complete denial, doesn't want to stop, doesn't want to whatever. Any way that shows up in your life, it still causes hurt. And like I like to say, and most therapists like to say, is all hurt matters. It doesn't really matter what the story is. It doesn't matter how you got there. All hurt matters. And so I want that to be the very first thing you hear, is that your hurt matters, and it's understandable given the situation that you're in. So Prodependence tells us just that. Your hurt matters, and your attempts to hold on to someone you love are understandable. Of course you would. Most people who are in a committed relationship don't just say, "Oh, okay, well, you go do you. Let's just live separate lives." That's not usually why we get into a committed relationship. We get into a committed relationship so we can be connected, so we can have shared experience and joy and pain and all the things that come along with a relationship. So one of the first concepts I want maybe to talk about today is just very basic self-care, very basic. And one of the very first things that I teach is what we call daily goals, or balanced goals, goals that help you stay balanced. They're very simple. They're not a big, huge thing. I don't want you to think you have to do something really big that takes a lot of time or a lot of money or a lot of energy, because you probably spent a lot of energy and still are spending a lot of energy worrying and fretting about what to do. So one thing we know for sure is that as we heal, no matter what we're healing from, we have to learn how to balance. We have to learn. A colleague of mine talks about it's like trying to stand up in a canoe in rough water. That's what the healing process is like. So imagine yourself standing in a canoe, and you're in rocky water, you're in white cap water, and on a river, and you're trying to stay upright. That's often what it feels like. You're like trying to shift your weight constantly to stay upright and in the boat and not drown. So we have you set some very basic goals, very basic, in 4 different areas. The first area that we have you set, and we have you set 2 goals in each of these areas, okay, that you will do on a daily basis, the best you can. I don't give grades, so it's okay if you don't do it perfect. And I wouldn't expect that from anyone. The first area would be your physical, your body. 2 goals that you can do every day to take care of your basic physical needs. So this would be things like exercise, diet, sleep, hygiene. Some people get through the day and realize I didn't even brush my teeth today. And not because I don't normally brush my teeth, but my mind is so caught up in my stress. So 2 things that you can do for your body. It might be get to bed by 10 o'clock and cut caffeine out of my diet, because I already got a lot of anxiety and I don't need more stimulant in my body. Keep it simple. If you find that you're stressing out because you're trying to do your daily goals, then back them up. Make them simple. Make it, I take a nap when I feel like it. I give myself permission to, I don't know, have a healthy snack in between my meals. Keep it super simple. The second area would be personal. We want to make sure that you are doing the things that make you you, the things you enjoy. These would be hobbies, interests, things like, I'm a gardener. I like being outside. So I make sure I spend 5 or 10 minutes with my hands in the dirt. Hopefully something's growing, but that's a daily for me. It might be playing the piano. It might be reading. It might be taking a nap. It doesn't matter, as long as it's doing things that make you you. Because sometimes when you're in a relationship with an addict, life becomes so unmanageable, you forget who you are. I often have partners who'll come in, I'll be like, what do you love? And they're like, they look at me like, that blank stare. And then I'll say, okay, what did you love? What do you want to love? So you might have to do a little bit of work here as far as get creative. And if it doesn't work, don't stay stuck in it. Try something else. And if it's taking too much time, change it. Do what you need to do. This is very organic. It's not, I don't want you to be rigid about these things. The third area is relational. We are only as healthy as we are attached to healthy people in our life and to other people that matter, that are special to us, that relationships that have meaning. So 2 things you can do every day to connect with the people in your life that matter. If the addict in your life is not available to you, then you have to have healthy people that you can. It might be I text somebody once a day. I text a friend. It might be I just make a phone call. It might be I spend 10 minutes with one of my kids every day. Whatever relationships matter to you, because you'll find that will plant your feet on the ground. Relationships help us reflect back ourselves and what we need. So you're not going to ever hear me say, just do you, aside from everybody who matters. Prodependence will always tell you you are as healthy as your closest connections. And so when the addict is faltering, or somebody is faltering in their ability to show up for you, you have to create, I always call your tribe. You got to create that around you. So two things you can do every day to connect with relationships in your life. The last one is spiritual. And that's two ways that you connect with your higher power or something greater than yourself, whether that's God or whoever that or whatever that is, but some way to ground yourself spiritually. Some people that's prayer, some people that's meditation, some people that might be walking outside and putting their hands in the dirt. It might double. Whatever helps ground you to your spiritual self. And if that doesn't resonate, cut that out. If that stresses you out to think about that, it's okay. Do the other three. But I have partners write these things down, and they're two goals, so it'll be 8 a day, and they write those things down and make a deliberate attempt to accomplish them. And if they don't, they just try again the next day, or the next day, or next week. It's okay. But to try to be deliberate and intentional about your self-care will be one of the fundamental long-term healing things you will do for your healing forever, by the way. Any of us who have any sort of recovery understand when we're out of balance, we're going over the side of the canoe. And then we're going to be like gasping for air. So one of the first things we have to do as well is give ourselves permission. You have to give yourself permission to do those basic things. I often say, if there's no you, there's no us. So, we have to fill our tank too, so we can handle some of the, gnarly wind that's blowing around. And so you can find some anchor in your life. So open to questions about that or comments. If anybody has any, feel free.
Somebody does have a question. I'll get to that in a moment, but I really appreciated this and how practical this is. And I thought for myself, when I've wanted to implement things like this, I've needed to create a calendar reminder. With technology now, I can do that. But like at noon, I could check in and go like, where am I on my list of 8? Because otherwise at the end of the day, I wouldn't have, I know that I wouldn't have done them, and I'd be, whereas if it would be a mindfulness thing for me to be able to go, oh, I need to practice, this particular thing. And I love that you're like, keep it simple, just, changing, taking out the caffeine, or do something that's just really small. But when you talked about, your focus has been so on probably on the addict and the addict's behavior and trying to manage everything else, it's really hard to, think about, who am I in all of this, from that standpoint too. So one of the questions is, can you talk about appropriate boundaries for partners?
Okay, absolutely. Happy to do that. I will say, just to preempt this, I'm going to say, I want, if you're early in recovery, I would say, boundaries are so crucial for healthy living for anyone. But don't put too much pressure on yourself to figure out those boundaries right away. In my experience, it takes a little time with doing some of this other stuff to then be able to take a breath and say, okay, what boundaries do I need for myself to stay safe? Another caveat I want to add, and this is also in the work that we do, is there's 2 ways to look at boundaries. When I first heard boundaries, I was like, I don't know what that is, but I need that. Like, that's a thing I need. Like, give it to me. And I was not ready to set boundaries. I just liked the word and I wanted it right now because it felt like proactive and something I could do. And it is something we all need to do and that you'll want to do. But there's 2 types of boundaries. There's a lot of boundaries, but 2 ways I look at it. There's what I call, people have said this in different ways, but I call them internal and external boundaries. But the way that I talk about, I believe we have to have good internal ones before we can ever set external ones. And by that, I mean, we have to know the ways in which we might be acting in an unhelpful way to others. So I have to know that I'm going to give a really simplistic example. One of the boundaries that I have adult children that are grown and married, and sometimes I forget that, and I like to give lots of unsolicited advice. I try not to, because that's a boundary. But my internal boundary that I've set for myself is that I will not give unsolicited advice unless they ask for it. I will not go to them and say, hey, I think you should blah, 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 without them asking me. I try to ask them, are you just telling me what you want? You just want me to listen, or are you looking for feedback? So that's an internal boundary. That keeps them safe for me, if that makes sense. Oftentimes what we want to do is set boundaries where we're like, you can't do that, or I'm doing this, and you, and you, and you, because we've been hurt, and we want to stop the hurt right now. And you certainly need boundaries. What I would say is the first thing to start looking at are, what are some of my internal boundaries that I need? How do I interact with the world around me? How do I interact? Maybe it's so difficult sometimes with my partner who is in his or her addiction. Maybe I for a time need to stop, giving him 20 questions when he comes home about where he's been. Maybe that's an internal boundary. Maybe that drives me crazy. Maybe that takes away my peace. So maybe an internal boundary I have is, I'm going to stop doing that. Not because I don't care, but I'm going to just ask 1 or 2 questions instead of 20. Maybe I'm going to limit that. And as I start to set up those internal boundaries, what happens is all of a sudden, knowing what my needs are, my external boundaries, becomes very organic. All of a sudden, I just recognize, I don't really like when people ask me 20 questions. That doesn't feel very good. I think I need to tell them, hey, you need to ask me first. So I would say, if you're further along in your recovery, setting boundaries, work with your therapist. Get a good therapist if you can, or maybe a support system around you, and ask them, bounce those ideas off of them about your boundaries. Because boundaries are really always, always, always about your safety. They're always about your self-preservation and getting your needs met. They are never about controlling another person. I have this goofy thing I call a boundary burrito. It looks like a boundary, but it's just control wrapped up. Like controls the meat. The outside, it looks like a that's my boundary burrito metaphor. So what we do is we set boundaries because we recognize there's a need that's going unmet, or there's a safety issue. For instance, I might have a boundary with a partner who's acting out. When you slip with pornography, it's really hurtful to me, and I need that to stop. Or when you lie to me about it, I need you to tell me. And if you don't tell me, the natural consequence of that is I don't want to be close to you. I don't want to get close to you. So that's a boundary. I'm figuring out what I need and what I don't need, and I'm letting somebody else know. But those are really hard to do until I know the areas in which I need to reel myself in. And then all of a sudden they become very natural. So they're always about safety, never about control. So watch out for the burrito. And there are always things that they always have a consequence for violation, and the consequence is always something that you do, not that you tell someone else to do. An ineffective boundary, or a boundary burrito, would be, hey, I don't like it when it really hurts me when you don't disclose your slips to me with drinking or pornography or whatever it is. So you're going to have to do 20 push-ups and move out of the room. That's control. Even a healthy boundary will look more like, it really hurts me because I'm trying to build trust when you don't disclose your slips to me. So the natural consequence of that is I probably need a little bit of space. So I'm probably going to reach out to a friend and, do something for myself. I still care about you, but that's really hurtful and I don't want to be close to you. That is more of a natural consequence, not a controlling consequence. I don't know if this makes sense. I hope so.
It does. I'd like you to the internal boundaries, and I do the same thing with children and grandchildren. And yes, it's like if I'm asked for what do I think or what would I do, that's one thing. But Yes, I can have the whole conversation in my head, but like, well, it's da da da. So I try to do that. But I'm trying to think about how I would even start to look at those internal boundaries. I mean, you know, am I looking at things where I'm feeling unsettled, or am I looking at things where people are having a reaction to me? I mean, how do I even start looking, you know, in the soup cauldron of all of this? How would I even figure that out?
I think we have to look at like, okay, that's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. For me, I just have to, it is sometimes the reactions of others. You know, my kids are pretty like, Mom, I just want to talk to you. I don't want you to give me advice. You know, or if I take hugs without asking, you know, I just go up and hug somebody. That could be a boundary violation for someone. And I have one child who can't get enough hugging. And I've got one child that's like, Mom, could you back up? Like, you're a little close. So one of my internal boundaries is not taking hugs without asking, if that makes sense. So I do kind of watch other people's reactions, but then I also consider what's okay for me and what's not. So there's several areas of boundaries you want to consider. So maybe you can make a list of these a little bit. There's physical boundaries. That's my physical space, right? That's my body. That's my things. That's my space. That might be my bedroom. That might be my stuff. That's my physicality. What am I comfortable with and what am I not? And do I have struggles with maybe holding that space for other people, you know, or, you know, being respectful of their boundaries? So that's a really important piece. Spiritual boundaries, like do I use, and I kind of equate that to self-worth. Do I use self-worth things? Do I shame people from a religious perspective or a self-worth perspective? Do I say, you know, you're bad? Do I connect their behavior to their value? That could be hurtful to somebody. You're a bad person instead of you did a bad thing. Those are different, right? I also look at, obviously there's sexual boundaries, you know, people, when we do things or say things, it could be in the things we say, it could be obvious, you know, molestation or taking sexual advantage of somebody. So those are boundary areas. We need to make sure that we have good boundaries with others and they have good boundaries. You know, we hold those boundaries with ourselves. There's also intellectual. How often have you been told, don't think that? No, it's not like that. It's like this. If somebody tells me, I had a family member, I swear, I'd say, the sky is so blue today. And they'd be, no, it's not. It's gray. It's like, what? Or it's azure. I'm like, why? Why do you always have to be right? Sometimes trying to make our reality somebody else's, being really uncomfortable with somebody else having their own thoughts and ideas that are different than ours, or vice versa. Doesn't feel good, right? So emotional is the last one, and that's, you know, letting people have their own feelings, not telling them how to feel. And I don't like to be told how I'm feeling. You know, somebody coming in going, you know, you're really upset right now and you need to calm down. It's like, wait, I want to decide how I'm feeling. And probably other people feel that way too. So do I ever go in and say, wow, I don't know why you feel that. We shouldn't feel that way. You know, just be okay with it. It's no big deal. Do I minimize other people's feelings or try and make them feel a certain way because I'm uncomfortable? So this is kind of a big discussion, and we'll have more on boundaries. So I want you guys to know that. That's going to be a big area we cover. This kind of a little taste because somebody asked. But there's a book by Townsend and Cloud called Boundaries. It's a great read. It's an old book, but it's still very relevant as far as the boundary discussion. Brene Brown has some great work on boundaries as well. I'd highly recommend either of those. They'll kind of give you some of these ideas and have you start thinking. Most of all, I don't want you to feel pressure. Like, I have to set a boundary right now in order for this to stop, because right early in recovery, they probably won't be very effective. You'll probably feel more frustrated. So I would recommend that you tell your partner, if it's your partner or your family member, you know, I'm feeling really hurt right now. And I want you to know that there's going to come a time when I might not be able to deal with this. I don't want that to happen, but over time, I'm going to have to probably set some rules. I'm going to have some limitations to what I can deal with and what I can't. That'd probably be a great place to start. I hope that helps.
Well, and I think it's important to consider that boundaries are not cement. blocks of
Yeah.
walls where you have to pick them, and you better put them in the right spot because they got to stay there forever. It isn't, and you can find workable. And you go, well, that one didn't work as well, or I need to tighten it up, or I need to loosen it up a little bit and have a little more flexibility. So identifying some areas, and I think finding as you go what's working and gravitating more towards that, and letting go, like you talked about, of things that don't serve you as well. I think it's challenging if you are very rigid, and especially from going from no boundaries, because if an addict has control of everything, there's it's boundaryless. To try to insert that can be challenging. But I think as we take some self-worth and go, I deserve to have this emotional space, or I deserve to have this, then some of those boundaries can be more clear. So
thank you. And also boundaries are very fluid. A boundary you need today might not be a boundary you need next week or next year or 10 years from now. They're constantly in flux. We're always working on boundaries. Those of us who are striving to be more self-aware and heal, we're always going, whoa, there's a boundary I didn't even think I needed because I wasn't in this state in my life back then, So don't be hard on yourself either if you don't know how, or you don't know, or you're gonna grow with that. It's gonna come very naturally as you get into your work and start to heal and start to figure some of that out.
Well, I think what you're talking about, you have adult children now. When they were, 6 and 9 or whatever, you act differently with them. The boundaries change. And so if we continue to think about relationships, relationships change and evolve, and we hopefully continue to change and evolve. So our boundaries with different people and different circumstances would be different. So somebody put in the chat, I had a client go through a list of ways that they attempt to show the value their spouse, and their spouse responded with fears that that these were attempts at being managed rather than valued. How can she know if he's managing her versus valuing her? That's a good question.
That is it's a big question.
Yeah.
You probably won't at first. I think as the relationship heals and you build more trust, I think that will kind of happen. You'll kind of, and you see some longevity with some of this behavior, him trying to value more, or she, or whatever, trying to value. You'll believe it, because it will be more frequent, and you'll see the behavior matches the words, they start to match. And sometimes we get in the weeds a little bit when we try and figure out someone's motives. Like, is he or she are they just saying that because that's what they think they should, or whatever? It's hard to be generous with our assumptions at first, with partners. So I would lean into that. I would probably tell that partner, look, I'm struggling to believe. I'm struggling to know the difference. Thank you if that's truly what you meant. But just know it's going to take more than a one-time event for me to feel valued by you. And I'm working on it, and if you'll keep being honest and showing up in this way, I think that will change. I have hope that it will change, but right now I'm battling.
I think that's really helpful. I know in Rob's book, Out of the Doghouse, he talks about rebuilding trust, and it's those actions, but it's the repeated actions and having the actions line up with the words. But like you're saying, and the question is, what's the motivation for all that? At the end of the day, hopefully it's, we want to have a relationship. In every webinar lately, I've referenced Dr. Stan Tatkin's We Do podcast that's on the sexandrelationshiphealing.com website. Anyway, that is such a powerful, regardless of addiction, but about relationships, that we're better off if we're in a relationship, and if we're both focusing on the relationship rather than this is the short version, but rather than the individuals, my selfish, I want my needs, that really helps, that helps all of us and be resilient and work towards, dealing with the world. So I think that can be a helpful framework for people to think about is, am I doing this for the good of the relationship? And and possibly, you know, asking these clients to, you know, like, is this ultimately beneficial for the relationship, or is there a way, you know, I hear you saying these things, that you're doing these things and I'm viewing it this way, but is there a way to reframe that so that, you know, you're doing things that are meaningful for our relationship and I'm accepting that you're doing them as being meaningful for the relationship?
Right. And also, I mean, they don't, he or she is trying to show the ways that they value. Words are really cheap at first. They just are. They don't mean them to be. And that partner or that addict could be being super genuine, but they just got to know their words are cheap because of their history. And it doesn't mean that they don't mean it today. It just means they're going to have to, you know, it's going to take some time to put the train back on the track, and they're going to have to be patient with their partners, what's the word I'm looking for, their partners not believing them, their skepticism about their
Motivation.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
and their authentic motives. It's just it's a patience game. And I see a lot of sometimes addicts trying to convince, and maybe they're just being controlling, but oftentimes they're doing their work. They're learning how to even formulate, not do the control burrito themselves. So, you know, they want to convince, they want her to heal, they want her to get better, they want her to trust, and you can't force that. Trust is built with good behavior over time, and you're going to have to keep reiterating that if you're a therapist and even if you're a partner.
Well, and with addicts, and I belong to that category, it's image control. Like, I want you to believe me. I want you to believe that, because I believe that I'm going to be different this time. And you know, and after we get a track record of showing up and doing the right thing and being in recovery and not lying all the time or whatever, you know, then we've got some grounds for you to actually believe us. But until we demonstrate that, then it's all like, no, really, this time, you know, this time it's different. Why? I can't believe I've been, you know, sober 48 hours. Can't you trust me? You know, so, you know, so it's all of that type of thing. But at the end of the day, addiction is about denial. You know, I can deny it to myself that I have a problem. I can deny that I'm hurting myself. I can deny that I'm hurting other people. So I'm not giving the addicts a pass. Don't get me wrong. I just want you to understand it's complicated. And, you know, and if we're desperately trying to repair a relationship, it can feel like we're trying to make you move beyond it and sweep it under the rug. And sometimes that's the case, but otherwise it's just, we're trying to find some common space. And the other thing with addiction is it takes away feelings, and you can numb out all emotions. And so being in an uncomfortable feeling, which could be a good feeling or a bad feeling, is very challenging. And so trying to support the relationship, support the addict, and support the partner, it's just challenging. So the more that you can hang on to tools, and you hopefully work with a great therapist, and use all the tools that we're putting on the website, you know, the better. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, I have hope. I hope for relationships. You know, I believe that there's a path to healing. I have seen so many couples. I've seen couples that haven't been able to make it. I'm going to be really honest with you, but I've seen a lot of couples that have found a place of healing that, you know, they ultimately say was better than what we had before, because we're really honest with each other. We're willing to be vulnerable. You know, we're authentic rather than, you know, I've got this mask on and I'm pretending to be this person that, you know, of course you have to love me, you know, so it doesn't mean it isn't a painful path, but at the end of the day, you know, it can be a really rich, you know, and loving relationship.
It certainly can. And to remember, addiction's very me focused. It's very me. So a little bit what I'm hearing maybe in this individual is I'm still in me. Here, I want you to know what I've been doing. And that, of course, is going to have usually a very negative impact on a partner. Partner's going to be like, be quiet. Just be, listen to where I am. So, you know, sometimes addicts can get really impatient with that process. And it's me, look what I'm doing. I. So be a really good thing to redirect them a little bit and say, let's not make it about you. Let's see what she notices organically, or he.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I answered an email a while back about, and it was the addict was desperate to have the spouse back, and but it was all about me, and I pointed that out to this person. They were okay with it, how I presented it. They weren't thrilled. Let's put it that way. They weren't really thrilled, but I was like, all I'm hearing is this is all about you. I want her back. I want this back. I want whatever, and it's got to be. So again, Stan Tekens, we want the relationship. So,
and sometimes be super cautious therapeutically. Early couples work early on is usually just not very helpful. A lot of people want it. Let's work on the coupleship, but usually there's just so much going on for each one of those individuals. They'll just come into therapy and do the same thing that they've been doing because they don't have enough tools. So I often will hold off, sometimes for a few months even. Maybe we'll come together just for safety. Like, here's some boundaries within the relationship we're going to set, but we're not really going to get in the weeds yet about how we're building trust. I mean, you're just still trying to get sober, and you're trying to bind those wounds and figure out how to, breathe again. So let's do our real big couples work down the road when we have a little more stabilization.
Yeah, I've heard often it's just supporting the coupleship while the individuals are doing more of their work. So
that's a hard thing first.
I emphatically agree. Very helpful. I think our clients need permission to take as much time as needed to navigate this new way of experiencing each other. So agree with that. So that's great
100%.
feedback.
And from a prodependence place, if we're looking at it from that prodependence lens, we're really looking at it like just walking with, like, just be as a partner. Just, it's okay to just be where you are. It's okay to be where you are. It's okay to not have it all figured out. We have been sort of trained culturally to figure it out right now. And we didn't get here overnight. Like, usually, there's been a lot of things that have happened over time in the relationship. And maybe this was just the big blow up, or maybe this has been ongoing for a long time. You take whatever time you need and ask. Give yourself permission, number one, and then ask for that from your partner. They won't like it. They'll want you to get better faster. They'll want you to start owning stuff that's yours. And at some point you'll be ready to do that potentially, and maybe even earlier than, but what you really need to do is just put your feet on the ground. You've been kind of uprooted from the earth and you're floating out there, kind of like the tornado hit. We need to get your roots back in the ground so you can make whatever decisions you have to make, which are big ones, obviously. You want your feet planted. You don't want to feel pressure by a therapist, by a spouse, by family members, by friends. You want to say, shh, like, let me breathe. Let me stop my bleeding. Let me just figure out what kind of mess I have here. Let me take care of myself. Let me start doing some basic things to get myself, grounded and stable. And then I promise I'll make those decisions. But you don't need to feel any sort of pressure by anyone.
I so agree. Any questions, comments? You can put questions in the Q&A. You can put them in the chat if you need to. So,
okay, yeah, keep adding them, please. It helps me. I'm such an interactive person. It helps me.
It is helpful. So
it helps with ideas in my mind. So coming into therapy, that's what we do. We really start with just very basic daily goals that we accomplish, just to start that process of grounding and rerouting yourself. And I can't, that's another thing about prodependence. It's very attachment oriented. We are very much, that's why relational is a part of those daily goals, is, connecting to other people and having that shared experience. And be sure be picky. Make sure you're connecting with people that can support you where you are. You really probably don't need a lot of people giving you a lot of advice. You don't need people telling you what to do. And you certainly don't need somebody hating your partner for you. There's probably enough hate and anger to go around just within yourself. If you have friends that are doing that, that's probably not a good support for you early on, or probably ever. I love Brene Brown. She has this concept called common enemy intimacy. And that's a false connection. Sometimes we find people that can join us in our hate for a common thing. If you have a support system or somebody who's supporting you in your, just they're joining you in that, in your anger and your hate only, and that feels so yummy, and then you leave and go, oh, that feels yucky. That's what we call common enemy intimacy. It's false intimacy. It's false connection. You want somebody that can say, bring it, tell me how mad you are, tell me how hurt you are. I can relate to it this way, and I can just hold that space for you. And I can love you, and I can even love your partner potentially, and still hear, your pain and your hurt. So make sure your support system can support you where you are. We don't need to be fixed. You don't need to be fixed. There's nothing wrong with you. You're in a crisis. You're in, your world's been uprooted, you've been turned upside down. So you just need somebody who can join you there, who has enough self-esteem and enough self-awareness that they can just be there for you and not try and change you. And you might have to train them. You might have to say, this is what I need. I just need you to listen. I really probably don't need feedback. Or can you just put your arms around me? Can you just put your arms around me and tell me I'm okay and that you love me still, even though I want to choke somebody or break dishes or throw everything over the balcony or whatever. Just, a good support for me will always say to me, I so get what you're saying. This is how I relate, and I just love you. And I know you'll figure it out. You're a pretty smart girl. And it just gives me that little bit of fuel I need to get through the next day or minute or hour, because that's how healing works. It works. We can't do it alone. We have to have good, solid support. But watch out for common enemy intimacy.
Well, and I think it's really easy to, like you said, jump on the bandwagon with that, but no one is all good or all bad. And you talked about that earlier too. It's like, you can not like the behavior, and with the addict, you can really not like the behavior and how horrible that is. But it isn't usually that black and white. There's usually, why did you fall in love in the first place? There were good qualities. There were good things that you liked about each other and all of that. So to make it, like the addict is all bad and everything that they do is bad, it's probably not. And so talking, like you said, with safe people that can go, I hear what you're saying, and that behavior was horrible, but I understand that you really love this person too. It's like if your kids are naughty, you're not really thrilled with them in the moment, but it doesn't mean you don't love them ultimately, so, and like I said, I always preface this as with some of your relationships will not survive, and that's okay. And you'll find that space and you find that place. I always encourage people not to react. And I think that it's easy to go, if I get rid of the addict, then my problems will be fixed. Then everything will be better. And but they've trashed your life, like you talked about the tornado or going through. All of that's still a swirl, and that dust doesn't settle just because the addict has left. There's the aftermath, and that's what you're dealing with. So taking the time to be intentional and working through finding a space for yourself and finding the right answer for you is, takes time and safe people.
For sure. And I often say too, sometimes when you're really angry, you just want to throw it all out. Nothing was good. Every anniversary, everything you ever said, everything we ever did, that's just an instinct. That's just a protective instinct. But then deep down, you're so confused because why the heck do I still love this person? How? And we judge judgy with ourselves and try and, talk not very nicely to ourselves. But sometimes maybe I want you to think about the relationship in terms of what things in the relationship aren't broken. Is there things that maybe aren't all bad? Maybe it's been impacted by the behavior. Maybe, we're really good friends. We have fun together. We share kids and they matter to us. We're both pretty dang good parents. Or, we have common interests. We love to run. We do marathons, or we love music. I would encourage you to try your hardest to not see everything one way or the other the best you can. Hold on, like let's not throw it all out. Let's say, okay, here's the areas that aren't so bad, but man, he or she has totally obliterated me over here. Because when and if I'm able to heal from these things, there may come a time when I don't want it all to have been thrown out and have to reconnect everything. So maybe your therapist, if you have a good one, or good friends or good support, they can hold, maybe help guard those things that aren't broken while you work on the things that are hurt. Um, that's our attachment theory. That's how that works. And it might not work. These might not be enough. These might totally take these out, but at least we're looking at it holistically. We're looking at it, the reason I'm so hurt and I'm so angry is because I love. We only hurt. We are only as angry as we love. So if you're really mad, you are capable of a lot of love, and really hurt, you're capable of a lot of love. Don't forget that. And that if that's the case, there might be something to go back to when some of this messiness is cleaned up.
So there's a question in here. I feel like I'm starting to lose the will to fight for my marriage. We have not entered into couple therapy yet. How long do you recommend giving the relationship? How long do you keep trying before you pull the pin?
Boy, that is the $1 million question. And nobody can answer that for you but you. However, we do have some research, on couples who have gone through this. I generally will say if both people are doing their healing work, he's doing his recovery, or you're doing your recovery, your healing work. Usually I say it takes probably a really hard work. It takes 3 to 6 months before the coupleship is usually ready to then really enter into couples, doing the really heavy duty couples work and attachment work. That's just me in my head. It could be sooner or longer. But I do understand the losing that will, getting tired and worn down. There's a thing that I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but every boat, every vessel that floats on the water has a line. It's called the Plimsoll line. It's the load limit of that vessel, meaning I can take this much weight before I take on water. What I've learned, if we're all vessels, is every one of us, our Plimsoll line is different. What you can handle and what somebody else can handle are two different things. Your Plimsoll line maybe can handle a couple of months of this, and somebody else might be 30 years. It doesn't really matter. All pain matters. You matter. So you just have to, hopefully with good supportive therapists and friends around you, they can help you recognize if that's the limit that you've reached and where to go from there. I always say early on in recovery, I try, unless there's really big safety issues, to get partners to just hold off on their decision making about the relationship for a little while. I always say if it's a good idea today, it'll be a good idea tomorrow or next week or next year. So that takes the pressure off. If it's the right idea to leave, it's the right idea to leave. But if I stay in another couple of months and work through stuff, it might still go that way, but it's always been the right idea. It'll be okay. I can give myself that time if I need it. But that is really individually up to you.
And I hear fatigue in this, and so I wonder if there's something that you could do, like even some of the things we've talked about, to create some space for you that would help recharge your battery so that you aren't just feeling fatigued. And again, like Kim just said, it may be time, you may be taking on water, but I also wonder if there's other things, that could be adding to your overall load so that you don't have the bandwidth to be able to have the will to fight on this level. So if there's, I mean, I love these, these ideas, just the little simple things of here's some things I can do, and, creating tiny little bits of self-care. At the end of the day, I'm a runner. I wasn't when I was, before I got into recovery, but I found that to be a thing for me. And not only is it physical, but that can be a really spiritual thing for me too. and emotionally calming. I mean, it just happens to be one of those things that ticks off a number of boxes because it gives me space, but it also, theoretically you'd get, exhausted, but it actually charges me up and gives me energy and mental energy to be able to de-stress and, deal with the next thing that comes my way. But there's lots of things like that, there's lots of things. Going out for coffee with a girlfriend, that's great, so, I mean, whatever it takes, but that helps me just settle and feel like, okay, I can do the next 10 minutes, so it'll be okay. So, yeah.
Sometimes it's minute to minute.
Yes.
I also want to say to whoever's that question, just, of course you're tired. This is exhausting. It's exhausting to try and hold on to somebody who is doing everything to move away. That is exhausting. I just want to validate that. It is tiring and exhausting. And I love the ideas are really good. See if you can fill your bucket. I would just say, don't make the decisions alone. Put people who love and care about you around you and have them help you navigate. Best decisions I ever make are those who I've had people around me to help me navigate those. Because every decision we make has consequences either way, and these ones are big and they matter.
Yeah, and they can have a different perspective. I can get very much in my little myopic, a view of things and feel like it's never going to change or whatever. So, sometimes you can see glimmers of hope. If you can see glimmers of time that things that in this moment, this is like I see the person that I thought I married, and for a lot of people, I've noticed that they start seeing those glimmers, show up as more frequent dots. So they're starting to be able to see that there eventually could be a path back. So, but that isn't everybody. Sometimes there's no glimmers. So
that's true. And that can be okay too. Sometimes we talk super heavy about recovery, and sometimes my vessel, I'm at the bottom of the lake, there's no unpacking that. And that happens. And it's sad, it's unfortunate, but it does happen. And it's usually not what somebody wants. It just is the reality.
No, but not every relationship is supposed to make it. So.
Right. Absolutely. I am so grateful to have been here today. I hope this was helpful. We'll keep doing this, and I'll bring topics, or if you have topics, please bring them with you. I'll do this on the 1st and 3rd Fridays. Arizona time is 3 to 4. But we will do this 1st and 3rd Fridays, and hopefully I can bring some of the prodependent perspective to you and give you some useful basic tools to kind of help in the situations you might be in. So, and
please join there is a partners drop-in group on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays at 12:30 Pacific time. That's a great opportunity. There's also the webinar with Dr. Rob, and there's lots. Go to sexandrelationshiphealing.com. If you haven't already registered, please do so. You'll receive the email notifications about the opportunities, but we really are trying to build a place that you can safely connect, get your questions answered, and also feel connected to other people. So thank you.
Have a good day. Have a good
Bye.
weekend.